Welcome to day 2 of the City of Grand Prairie's operational budget discussions. When we left off yesterday, we'd made it through all the departmental budget presentations and had just arrived at the council and committee referrals, where council will go through items that were referred to budget from committee. Some were funded and some were unfunded, but referred here for discussion. We also have a number of flagged items from yesterday, and some of them, my impression was that they were more information requests, and I hear from administration they might be prepared to provide some of that information. So would council like to go through some of those flagged items, because some of them may be a 1-minute thing if admin provides an update. Is that fair? Yeah. Greg, are you and your team ready to do that if we go through those flagged items?
Do you want to do them first? Or?
Mr. Anderson?
Well, maybe we could do those later, please.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Which loosely translated means
no. Yeah.
I got a technical issue too.
Okay. Well, Ken, we'll throw it over to you then.
Okay, if we can throw up the screen there, we'll go through the council and committee referrals.
We don't have them.
Have which?
Coming up now.
Well, they're actually, the whole presentation is online. So it's broken into 2 sections, those that are funded in the budget and those that are unfunded in the budget. I'll go through them, and some of the directors can add some more context to them. STARS is $50,000 per year, and that's been in the budget for a few years. I don't know if you want some further information on it, we can just let me know, and the director can add more if you wish.
Sure. With all of these referrals, we'll if there's something that somebody would like to alter the course of action, either to fund or unfund it, then we'll do the same process we have with everything else. We say we'll flag it. If nobody chooses to flag an item, then it remains in whatever status it was. Okay? Everybody clear? So, Councillor Rice?
Having not availed myself of the opportunity to check the list online, apparently, there are some, do we know, like STARS is in the budget for 50 grand. Did they ask for 50 or did they maybe ask for 60 or something? Like, is that going to be shown someplace in the presentation?
Yeah, when I go through the list, if it just says an absolute amount, that's what they asked for.
Okay.
If it's held at the 2011 rate, you will say that.
It'll stay, like, how will we know that?
It's indicated on the slide.
Thank you.
So moving on, the next one is Safe Communities, which has been in the Protective Services budget for several years. $14,000 per year was the request, and that's what's in there. Similar with the Grand Prairie and District Victim Services, $45,000 per year, and that was the request, and it's been in it for a few years. Grand Prairie Ski Club is in at 40 in 2012, 20 in 13, and 14. So this was an actual reduction they asked for in 13 and 14. The Wapiti Corridor Planning one was agreed to a few years ago. It's in there for $20,000 for 2012 and 2013. And here's one that comes up, the Swan City Recreation Curling Club. It's in at the 2011 level. The request is greater though.
Are they on our schedule to attend? Are they one of the community groups that's going to attend and present to council?
Maybe Gary could indicate what they're asking for.
Ms. Roth?
They are not on our schedule to attend. And see that.
Which? Oh, capital? Is that right?
Oh, thank you. Okay.
I will have, it'll just take me a few minutes to find their ask.
Okay.
I think we should flag that.
Yeah, okay. So we've had a request to flag that item, so there is some further information that we'll need, so we'll flag that one for further discussion and information. Okay. Ken?
The Golden Age Center, it's $31,966 per year, and that's been in for a few years as well. Center for Creative Arts is another one that has funded in the budget at 2011 level, but the request is greater again. It's probably something to be flagged.
Sure. Well, I believe they are also on our list of groups that will attend, so that item will get discussed there as well.
You want to flag it?
Well, I think any of the items where the community group is coming to attend, the appropriate time to flag would be after we've heard from them. And then we can,
If we're gonna vote on these, should we make sure that one's pulled out if they're coming?
so, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
So any of the ones where there's gonna be somebody to speak to it, they're gonna be here, they're gonna give us additional information, and then after hearing that, then council can choose whether they wanna flag it for further discussion or not. Okay.
The next one is the South Peace Regional Archives, similar again at the 2011 level. I'm not sure, are they coming, Gary?
Mr.
Yes,
Roth?
they are, and they had requested a 5% per year increase.
Okay.
Grand Prairie Live Theaters into the 2011 level, request is greater, I believe they're coming this afternoon. Grand Prairie Public Library, same, and they are coming this afternoon. Prairie Art Gallery, the same, and I believe they're coming. Now, the FCS says agency funding, it's in at varied amounts. Some groups are coming forward to ask for more, or to be considered to be funded. I'm not sure how you would wish to deal with that one.
Again, I think with the FCSS, we'll go through the community group presentations, so council can hear those. And then I would expect that council members have referred to their FCSS list, and if there was something that was on that list the council had an interest in but they didn't present, then after the community group presentations, we do that.
Okay. The Leisure Center, there's funding for the soccer pitch only in, but the item has already been flagged.
Okay.
Technical search and rescue has been 20,000 per year for a number of years. That's their ask as well. Not funded in the budget. Grand Prairie Regional College, $100,000 over 2 years, and this relates to trees, I believe.
Are they attending? I don't think they're on our list, are they? Okay. So at this point, if there are organizations that are not funded, because now we're talking about ones that are not funded at all, if council members have an interest in them, then this would be the appropriate time to flag them for further discussion.
Flagged already.
Yeah, Councillor Wong had some was looking for some information on trees, I think. So, okay, so maybe we can just flag this item along with that one there, that was previously flagged. Okay, Ken?
The next one, Bill Walker talked about the PAC program. That's funded by grant until March 2012, and it's only included in the budget to that point.
Okay, Councillor Radburn?
So I'd like to flag the next two items, please, Mayor Gibbon.
Okay. So the PAC program and the Youth Intervention Diversion Program. Okay.
Police Action Crisis Team. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So both those are flagged.
Community Futures, 10,000 per year, and this is for a full-time grant writer, I believe.
Okay. Councillor Wong.
I'd like to flag that item, please.
Okay. Councillor Wong flagged the Community Futures request. Ken.
The next one is the Regional EMS Foundation. I believe it's for a simulation unit. They came to Protective Services, and that's 30,000 in 2012.
Yes.
Regional EMS, Joanne Cousin.
Yeah. 140. Okay.
Next one is the Grand Prairie Tennis Club, $80,000 in 2012, and I believe it relates to resurfacing.
Mr. Roth.
Yes, Your Worship. They asked for a one-time request for $80,000 for tennis court resurfacing in 2012.
Okay.
Is that in the budget?
No,
No.
it's not.
Okay. So Councillor Rice has requested to flag that one. Okay.
Not funded is the Peace Wapiti Speed Skating Club. This would be a first time for this organization.
Could we, I'll ask to flag that one for further details on what the request was.
The car share pilot project, I mean, we funded off the capital piece last week, so we should fund off the operational piece.
Councillor Wong.
I'd like to flag that item, please.
Okay.
The next one is the South Peace Ball Association. I believe it's for bleachers, and it's not funded.
Mr. Roth.
Actually, this is an operational component. There was a bleacher component that was included in part of the capital budget that was not funded, and this is an operational component.
Okay.
That's all.
That was it? Okay. Okay, so we flagged a few items. I think now would be the appropriate time to get into that list from yesterday. So you bought yourself like all 15 minutes there. But, so we'll go through the list of flagged items or items of request for additional information from yesterday. And where are we going to start with that one? So the first one that I see was safety code services to other municipalities. And so, Councilor McLean, you raised that item. Do you want to give us a little bit of a synopsis of what it was that you were looking for or why you flagged that item?
Yeah.
You have to turn on your microphone there.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. The reason why I want to flag this, and they kind of go together, 1 and 2, is we're expanding their service levels to a few towns and villages around our area. And there's some opening positions, which they've talked about engineer and all this. Gary, or Frank, I guess. Frank, is this some individuals that could be retired that can maybe fill in the transition period of filling people? Maybe they could be rehired for full-time till we get it, and kind of fit like in the code area, building codes. And I don't see, if we're expanding it, we should fill the positions up as quick as possible and have ads. So what's happening there is information, and I think there might be some people that might have retired but could come back full-time for a year to help out. How are we looking there?
Okay, so just to clarify, your requests are about staffing levels and what the process is to make sure that that area is fully staffed.
Yeah, because we're asking them to do more,
Okay.
and we're not filling the funded vacancy rates as it is now.
Okay, Mr. Scouch?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. We've been providing services to Beaver Lodge for about a year, and about 4 months ago, we started looking at Wembley, Hythe, and Sexsmith. So we do have some challenges with some vacant positions. We've just filled the plumbing positions, so we're currently short 2 positions. Those are being actively recruited. So we feel we have enough of a staff complement to manage both the provision of services to the other municipalities as well as within the municipality. In addition, we're also looking at an RFP is out right now for additional technical services on the non-residential, which is the main concern. Residential isn't too much of a concern for us, and the bulk of the work out in these other communities would be residential.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Does that get you the information you're looking for, Councilor?
Yeah,
Okay.
but that RFP would be out to a private contractor, and it'd be more expensive until we can fill the position to check commercial buildings or something. Is that where you're leading to? And it costs us more?
Mr. Scouch?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. The cost, we are sitting down with those municipalities later this year to renegotiate the upcoming year's contracts, and the intent was we would not undertake any work at a loss to the city, and they certainly will reap the benefits of the economies of scale.
Okay. Okay, so we're satisfied that that item got the information you're looking for and we can strike it off the list? Okay. Okay, thank you. So so that was sort of the, was that 1 and 2? So the service to other municipalities and staffing levels. Councilor McLean, are you comfortable that that satisfied both those requests? Okay. The second one on the list was third one on the list, I guess, was one that I had flagged in the transit to have a discussion about the budget's alignment with the transit master plan. Mr. Scavage, can you give us some information on that?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Not prepared at this moment. We just haven't done all the background on it yet, so we could deal with it later.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that could be a little bit longer discussion. Okay. So how about fleet transportation maintenance operating cost increase? That was one that Councillor Radburn had raised. And Councillor Radburn, do you want to speak to why you'd raised that?
Yeah, thank you.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yeah, no, I think I apologize for the mistake. I was looking at operating costs, which is the number that's total. So Frank, if you could just give us a quick overview. The salaries of 191,000, and particularly the interdepartmental of 2.5 million is the difference from 11 to 12. And so if you could just explain to me in particular that interdepartmental line and what that means.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Certainly, I'm looking at page 72.
Yes.
And the difference there is that we've done an internal change now. We're charging all our equipment into the administrative account. Formerly, it was charged in the snow removal account. So you'll see that while there's an increase of that 2.5, right below on the revenue side, we have an offsetting revenue to balance out that expenditure. So it's basically a clearing account.
Thank you.
Okay. So Councillor Radburn, you're satisfied then that that's got the information needed? Okay. So we'll move down. The next on the list, Councillor Wong had raised the Leisure Centre operating model options. I think that's maybe a little bit of a longer discussion. Mr. Roth?
Your worship, if we want to deal with it today, I am ready. I do have the information, but it is going to be a more lengthy presentation and discussion.
So if, yeah, so let's bump that to the end and go through the ones that are a little bit quicker like we've just done. So the next was Councillor Radburn had raised Peace Library System Council's approved funding. And so Councillor Radburn?
I'm just ensuring that the approved funding of 226, 251, 266 are in the budget as council's motion was.
Okay, Ms. Roth?
We can, yeah, we do confirm that council did make that motion, and it simply needs to be added in, and we are getting the nod that that is being adjusted.
So is that, question would be, was that number reflected in the ones that Ken had given us previously of our, you know, our 3.6, 4.3, 3.7? Is that in addition to that then?
See, that, I understand that.
Councillor
That's
Radburn?
very disappointing that that wasn't included in the budget at the start. It's council motion from a while ago.
Okay.
Anyway,
so
it needs
Mr.
to get in the budget. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, Mr. Anderson, so that those numbers for the Peace Library System aren't included in the numbers that we'd sort of predicted previously?
Correct, it is a small amount, but we realize the error and we're making the adjustment.
Okay. Okay. So then, if we could before, so what, in terms of the impact that would have, how would that change our numbers?
Percents, it wouldn't change. It's rather small.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so administration will include that. Grand Prairie Public Library is one, Councillor O'Toole, that was next on the list, but I think they're going to be presenting, and it's been flagged before, so that'll be a little bit longer discussion. Okay. Councillor Wong had Parks Operations Tree Budget, and that was that one reference to the GPRC, and so maybe we discuss that as a whole a little bit later on, or is there some specific information you're looking for, Councillor Wong?
Yes, Mayor Given. I was just wondering about the procedure for planting trees, and I wanted to know if there was potential to replant those trees that were planted at an earlier date to provide community groups and other agencies or other organizations like the GPRC, when they make a request, if we could, I don't know if we treat that like a tree nursery or if we replant just for our own uses.
Okay. Mr. Roth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, Parks Operations plants about 100 to 150 trees per year. They have a procedure and a protocol as to how they plant trees. So they look at trees that were damaged or had to be removed because they were ending the end of their life cycle. They look at other tree planting needs within our park systems first, and usually the need is much bigger than their number of trees that they can afford to buy under their budgeting. Just for council's information, the average tree costs about $500 per tree, plus the cost of planting them, because sometimes they need to actually have a spade truck come in and actually do the planting operation. So it is quite expensive per tree, and they try to do as much as they can based upon the budget amounts. With the 1.5% decreases, Parks has decreased somewhat their tree planting budget and a little bit on their annual planting budget, although it's not significant. In general terms, like I said, usually just maintaining and planting our own trees, looking after our own infrastructure, there isn't barely enough to go around to meet those needs. So any request from a community group would be needed to be over and above what Parks is already accounted for.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
Thank you. Just to clarify then, the 14,500 trees that we have in inventory are already on boulevards and other public spaces that we need, so we need to have those trees in those places.
Mr. Roth?
That is correct. The 14,000 trees are the ones that are already part of our urban forest infrastructure within the city.
Okay. So Councillor Wong, does that get you the information that you're looking for, just at a high level?
It does,
Okay.
yep.
So I guess we had sort of tied that with the GPRC request. Is there any action on that, or would anybody care to flag that for further discussion?
Aren't they coming?
No, GPRC is none the list. They had their requests for 100,000 over 100,000 over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Yeah. So I think this would probably be the appropriate time. We got some information about what the city could do internally And so anything in addition would be on top of that budget, so. Councillor Rice?
We refer it to a committee.
This has actually come from committee. It's been there a couple of times.
Oh.
And so basically it's at the point of funding or not funding. And so the request from GPRC.
I'll flag it.
Okay. Okay. So Councillor Rice flags the request for $100,000 over 2 years. That would take us down then to Councillor McLean had raised fire department salaries for additional information. And Councillor McLean, do you want to speak to why you'd raise that item?
You don't.
Well, I don't know if this could wait till Friday. I need a little bit more information unless it could be given to me now.
Yeah, I think it looks like the Director Walker's
Sure,
ready to
let's
provide
do
some
this.
additional info.
So what I can give you today is basically the salaries that the fire department get typically are negotiated with the union. The last round, we actually went through a process of negotiations that ended up in an arbitration award. And the arbitration process is an arbitration committee that's established through a provincial system that rules, and basically we have to take the outcome from that as a move forward position. So that arbitration awarded 3.1% for January 1st of 2010, 3% July of 2010, January 1st of 2011, 2.5, and July 1st, 2.5. Total increase of 11.1%. So that has changed, of course, the cost to the City of Grand Prairie for running the fire services. That brings our average salaries into the midpoint of the Tier 2 cities. It's we're not at the high end, we're not at the low end, we're actually right in the middle of the pack as far as how we compare to other cities across Alberta of similar size. And the one thing that has also changed in the last year is we'd never had in our budget process statutory holiday pay had not been budgeted for properly. And that's about a $400,000 touch that got added in this year going forward. So that's the other reason that there's a large increase there.
A few more
Councillor
questions.
McKay, sure.
Thank you, Mary Given. So like 2010, 2011, the total was 6% and 5%? Just over 6? And
Yeah, 11.1% when you compound it because.
Okay, because you divided it up there kind of
Yes.
half and half. and
Yes,
half
and that's
half.
what happened is
Okay.
they gave awards.
I got two reasons why I raised this. I raised it because it's sort of doubled in the rest of the city staff is where we're looking at for maintaining the budget. And the other reason, we just built, the new fire is being built and all new fire trucks and hire all the new firemen way before it's built, and that upped the wages. So I'd like to make a motion and see where it goes.
Okay.
My motion is to review attrition policy for fire to help offset the cost of the pay increases. And what I mean by that, from 3% to 5%. So if there's a 2% extra, how much that cost would be, that's information I wanted to wait until Friday. If it's an extra 200,000 or 300,000, and how that can come about. And hopefully it doesn't get dissolved in committee, and I'd see if council's feeling on this.
Okay, so just clarify exactly what your motion part of that was
Okay.
again for me?
To review the attrition policy for the fire department to help offset the cost of the pay increases, because they're above every other department.
Okay, so that would be that type of review. You're basically, so you're asking administration to go away and do some work and bring back information to council.
Yeah.
That would probably be better. I'm thinking that that's actually more of a committee item.
And that's
We
why I'm
were-
worried it'll get in, get buried. I hope it doesn't get buried. It comes up, and I need to know numbers, the difference of, from other departments of how much the increase from 3 to 6% to 5% a year would be, because it's a dramatic increase, and it's one department that really is affects the budget quite a bit.
Okay.
So it might have to go to committee that
Yeah,
way.
so I'm thinking that's a referral to committee.
Yeah.
So any council member can make a referral to committee at any time. And so Councilor McLean, what we'll do is we'll refer that item, and then when it comes up on the Protective Services Committee, you can be there to speak to it, and the committee will have the vote there on whether we direct administration to take that action or not.
Okay, thank you, Mary Eva.
Okay, so that's referred to committee. What do we have next? Facility maintenance. Councilor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I was just thinking with the request to committee, I think part of that discussion will need to be, Bill, you can correct me or not, but there's some implication there with respect to service levels in our policy. So I'm thinking that referral could also involve service levels, because we can say that we can reduce staff by attrition, but that does affect service levels. So I'm assuming that that'll be part of the discussion when it comes to committee. Is that
That would
fair?
certainly be part of our presentation because, you know, the staffing is based on the service level policy that council have established. So
Good.
one is linked to the other.
Good.
Okay.
Can do
Well,
both,
okay.
at least, yeah.
So all that information about service levels and about staffing will come back, at the committee. The committee will vote on whether we ask administration to gather that information and bring it back, okay? So- Well,
I'm glad Councilor Rabin
This,
brought it up.
this actually, this isn't a debate. We've
Okay.
referred the item to the committee.
That's good.
It'll be on the agenda of the next Protective Services Committee. And council members that are interested can show up and have the discussion and debate there. Okay? Okay. The next on our flagged items from yesterday was facility maintenance. This was flagged by me. I had a question with regards to there was a presentation that said that facilities was seeing reduced revenue because the public library and Prairie Gallery were not having to pay those maintenance costs. And my question was, how much of a direct impact is that on their operating budget? And in part, how long has this been the case? Is this new in 2012, or is it the same as it was in 2011? Mr. Anderson? I've got an app for that. Sorry.
Be what has changed from the old model to the new model when they each had their own facility. So what you're seeing here on the left-hand side is, first of all, there's two slides. The first slide is library. These are the actual grants on the left-hand side that we give to these organizations. And in 2009 is the year that they actually moved to the Montrose Cultural Facility. The waived rental is an estimate of the market rent for the space that they occupy, and that's provided by assessment. But it's waived, so it's just in there as just an indication of what they're getting. So you can see they've gone from 1.09 to 1.401. And for the Prairie Art Gallery, they've gone from 91 to about 200. You can see their waived rental increased as well because they're going to the new facilities. What really changed, though, is that when they were in the old building getting their grants, they paid all their own operating costs. They paid their utilities, they paid their custodial costs. When they moved to Montrose Cultural Center, all those costs are being picked up by the city now, so they're no longer in place. And I understood that to be your question, what
Yeah.
the difference was.
Yeah, thanks very much. So that, that's helpful for me. But so you're saying that those changes have been in place and would have had an impact on their budget since 2009? Is that,
Yeah, there were some cross charges that were happening, though, but we've eliminated all cross charges going into the current cycle.
okay, okay. Thanks very much. So that clarifies for me that, provides additional information that'll helps me understand when they end up making their presentations. So Ken, can you put up your slides for each of those again?
Sure.
So I just want to check on each of them when their actual grant has increased. Okay, so the library operating grant was, the last grant increase was 2010, and the art gallery, Ken? Was 2009. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so that was the information I'm looking for. I'm satisfied that both of those groups are presenting, and I was just looking for some additional background. And then the last, Councilor Monroe.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Just for clarification on those slides, the waived rental amount, in that amount is the expenses that the city picks up, like the janitorial, the utilities, and all that kind of items. Is that correct, or is that
No.
in the other column?
No, that's incorrect. There's a separate budget in facilities called Montrose Cultural Center that includes all those costs. The waived rental is just a nominal amount, just to indicate if they actually paid market rent, that is the approximate value they would pay. So it's seen as a contribution from the city to those organizations, but it's a non-cash issue. The actual costs are included in a Montrose Cultural Facilities budget.
So, so the waived rental really doesn't have any bearing on anything?
Really, it's just an informational item. Could be noted as a contribution by the city to those organizations for the provision of that service, but there is no cash transaction occurring here.
I guess the reason I ask is the rental amount seemed awfully high, $2 million per year for the library, I think is what was up there. Yeah, just, that is what market rates would be for that
That's the
typically?
value that the assessment department came up with, the space and the common area space as well,
Okay.
plus the underground parking.
But I think it's, maybe Councilman Monroe, I think it's maybe fair to say that that's a way for the city to recognize the investment that they've made in both those facilities, both those organizations. I think we'd have different opinions of whether it provides material benefit to them, or whether the council of the day that chose to build the building knew that that was the cost that they were, the investment that they're making in those community groups.
Yeah, I more or less wanted clarification on where those expenses were. Thanks.
Okay. So thanks very much for the additional information. The last one on the list from yesterday was Councillor Wong had highlighted what we've got down here is salary increase for additional information. I'm not sure what area that was. Councillor Wong, can you
That's
provide?
facilities.
Okay.
Yes, it was just some information that I was looking for. Facilities, the salaries for facilities increased, or showed an increase of 27% between 2011 and 2012. And the number of full-time staff positions didn't reflect an increase. So I just wanted to know if there was a mistake made somewhere.
I can go through those. It's approximately $600,000. There were some out-of-scope increases, the step increases of $50,000. In-scope increases, there was actually an established position for 2011 that was missed. That makes up part of that, but there were also some step increases for the unionized staff to lead hands. We've added one summer temp, and the role of that person would be rotor-tilling playground sand. We've realized that the casual custodial staff that we're utilizing now is greater than what was budgeted for, so there was the inclusion of some more casual dollars for that. We've put in some facility worker temps, 1.5, an apprentice in an outdoor facilities to install playgrounds in the summer and help with the indoor maintenance in the winter. We also added a couple of staff at the multiplex, and they were only included in the 2011 budget for partial year, so annualizing that is another $120,000. And there was also a mistake made at the Montrose Culture Center. There was actually supposed to be a 0.5 casual, but it was budgeted as 0.3 last year, so there was the correction of that error as well. So there was actually no established staff changes. There were some inclusion of some further casual dollars and temp dollars, though.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
Okay, yes. Just wondering if that could be broken down under the resources section under facilities, because all the other tabs that we have, when it shows resources, it actually underlines it outlines a matrix for all the staff resources, and this one just had a number there. So it was that's why it looked a little funny.
Okay, well, we can look at doing that, creating what does the casuals add up to in a full-time equivalent?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. So Councillor Wong, that sort of satisfied the request for information there? There's not an action coming out of it other than the sort of recommendation for future budgets?
No action. Thanks.
Okay, so that gets us through our list of flagged items from yesterday. There are a couple that we left because they were a little bit further discussion or were related to community groups that will be coming forward. We're moving really quite well. I think maybe we'll take a 10-minute break here so that administration can put together a list of new flagged items. We've got a fair bit of time, I think, before our community groups come in, so we can probably jump into the discussion and debate on some of the bigger picture items. But we'll take about a 10-minute break so that we can prepare that list of the next items that are going to come up. Okay? So, well, we'll be back at 10:02. Okay, so we're back. We had a chance to look at the schedule. We have community groups scheduled to come in this afternoon at 1 p.m. There were a few items that council's received some additional information. We were able to get those off of the list. And there are some larger ones that we thought we would have an opportunity to discuss now. There's been a request from council to have some additional information on our options for funding anything that we may choose to fund. And we'd like to see that information prior to making decisions on the entire list of flagged items, including community groups. So what I propose is that that we leave all those discussions about yes or no in terms of actual money until Friday morning. That'll give us an option this afternoon to hear from community organizations. And we can start off Friday morning with a presentation about what options council has available to them to be able to fund any of the items. And then we would discuss all those items and be able to make recommendations on funding them or not funding them based on the options that we heard from administration. Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Yeah. Okay, so what that means is there was one item on our list, the Leisure Center. Administration is prepared to present us with some additional detail that gives council some information on what the actual options are. I think we'll do that, and if anybody would like to refer a specific one of the options as a flagged item, then we know exactly what it is that we're talking about rather than the entire sort of Leisure Center. We have a specific option that we can look at in context of the rest of the funding decisions that we have to make. We may be able to have a presentation on the transit. We'll see if we can get that additional information. We'll finish off those two topics, and they should end with a referral of something specific as a flagged item. And then we'll be finished for this morning, and we'll come back at 1 o'clock this afternoon to hear from community groups. Does that sound fair to everybody? Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Roth, you have some information on Leisure Center options for operations.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a presentation to also put up on the screen just so that the public can also see the various options. So as background to this, of course, in part of the capital presentation, we had approved funding for 2013 and 2014 at $2 million apiece for each of those years to start the renovation process. Administration has looked at that and how the impact, what the impact would be on the operational components to the Leisure Center. And looking at it, they believe that the 2013 scheduled renovations probably would not have significant impacts on operations. They could be open and operating for part of even while renovations is going on. However, the 2014, as based on the schedule that our consultant had given us, would be pretty significant pool types of renovations, and it would mean shutting the pool down for approximately 6 to 8 months. So having figured that into mind, administration has looked at coming up with several options when it comes to the Leisure Center. And we did include 2012 numbers in this, just as comparison's sake, and also for your reference. Staff do tell me that there is a possibility, the pool did just go through a shutdown this past spring. It is possible to continue and operate it in 2012. However, strategically, we may want to look at other considerations for that. So the modified operations option is something that staff came up with as a way to complement the multiplex. It also frees up the multiplex for greater spontaneous use. And a modified operation would allow the Leisure Center be used primarily for programming, for user groups, school groups, and group types of bookings. So a lot of your swim lessons, swim clubs, and those kinds of things would operate from the Leisure Center. This is based on operating for 8 hours a day only. So it would be open in the afternoon into the evening when your peak demands are for those types of groups. The advantage to this option is it does take those bookings and those programming options out of the multiplex. Having said that, though, the multiplex pool, the 54-meter pool, is actually almost 3 times the size of the pool in the Leisure Center, just so to be clear that we can still operate with programming and lessons and those kinds of things in the multiplex pool and still have room for spontaneous use. This option would just take the take those groups away and make it out of the multiplex mix and make the multiplex completely available for spontaneous use. So that was the first option that administration had identified. As you can see, the costs decrease in 2014. That's based around a 6-month shutdown. But bearing in mind, we still have costs pertaining to utilities and insurance and those kinds of things. So it's not a really a net cost where you would break it in half type of thing for that shutdown. And if we can move on to the next option. Staff did basically the same considerations financially in terms of looking at a full service option. This full service option is the same model as what we're operating at now, where the pool opens at early morning hours and operates into the evening. As a cost comparison, you can see the difference in the costing from the modified hours and what that looks like. Again, the 2014 numbers include a shutdown of about a 6-month time frame. And the third option is where it's at currently in our budget, and that currently in our budget is as a soccer pitch only. As you can see that there is certain expenses still required the facility. We are getting a little bit of revenue from Grand Prairie Soccer Association. The biggest reason why the expenses are as high as they are is, of course, we still have to pay utilities in the building. We still have to pay insurance on the building. Plus, we also have to have the soccer pitch available during daytime hours to some degree because it is part of the scores agreement. It has to be available through that agreement. Those are primarily three options. In looking at those options, there is some timing issues that can be considered. For example, there is a decision, although I said the pool is operationally viable for 2012. Strategically, we have had discussions around closing it to have the users switch over to the multiplex for 2012. There is some operational considerations on if any times that we are closing the pool. Facilities department tells us that if we do close the pool and actually physically drain the water from it and leave it set dry for any length of time, there is some operational costs in getting it started back up because they do have to double check all the seals and filters and those types of things. And that really ranges depending upon any items that need to be replaced, would be replaced at that particular time. They're telling me the cost could be between $50,000 to $70,000. That would be a complete overall replace all the seals, all the filters type of expense, but it also could be a lot less than that too. The other operation is to leave it sitting with the water in, which does mean staff have to monitor the water just to make sure that it's not necessarily fit for swimmer use, but also make sure that it's not affecting our infrastructure. So there still has to be some maintenance and ongoing work done on it to leave the water in the pool.
Okay, thanks very much, Gary, for the additional information. So council's seen basically 3 different options. One of them is what is currently in the budget. That's option C, which is operation as a soccer pitch only. That's what's currently funded in our budget. I do see a couple people in the queue, but what we'd be looking for is questions for additional information, and eventually we should be, if anybody cares to take any action different than what's in our budget, then we need a motion to refer a specific option, I think, to the flagged items so we can have that discussion on Friday. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at, and I see Councillor Munro.
Thanks, Mayor Given. With options A and B, would it be fair to say that most, if not all, the revenue that would come from this would be taken away from the multiplex then?
Mr. Roth?
Your Worship, that's a bit of a tough thing to answer. These are users that would be going to the multiplex if the pool is not operational. That it's a bit of a tough call to say because it's hard to know exactly how many users we would gain by leaving it open versus the multiplex only, but certainly the users that would be using this pool, their other option would be the multiplex.
But in option A, it is just for lessons, user groups, and schools, I guess. So presumably, in that case in particular, most of those user groups would be moving their operations over to the multiplex.
Mr. Roth?
That is correct.
Yeah.
However, when moving those over, it does create more spontaneous use at the multiplex, so it's really hard to say how much of that would be backfilled by additional customers. It's really difficult to predict at this point. But option A does count for primarily rentals from those particular areas.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Councilor Monroe. Councilor Rice?
At one point, the county had expressed interest in us leaving the leisure center open. They were very keen to have a north end of town recreational facility and indicated they would be willing to talk to us about their potential participation. And I know they do participate to some degree now, I think, in the leisure center operations. Have we had, and I know that we asked them, do you want to participate in the multiplex? And they said no. I think they said no. Like, have we gone to them with this, perhaps? You know, and is that factored into these numbers?
I can say that we have contacted the county to see what their actual interest is in the building. We haven't heard back at this point, but we've offered, when the information came to committee about the renovation options, I sent a letter to the county and asking what level of involvement they might like to have in the future of the facility as a partner, as a user, or other. And to this point, we haven't heard back from them.
So there is still some potential. As long as they haven't said no, we're still breathing. Okay.
Mr. Roth?
We have had some discussions, administration to administration. There's also a December 1st joint city-county recreation meeting, and this is going to be an agenda item.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. A couple of questions of clarification, Gary. By operation, by modified and full operation, I'm assuming that that includes the fitness area?
Mr. Roth?
Yes, that would include the fitness area.
Good.
The fitness area is actually a relatively smaller component to this. The aquatic side does comprise the biggest portion of the budget.
Thank you. And secondly, if we chose a modified operation, I heard Mayor Gibbons say that the operation as a soccer pitch only is in the budget. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So if we went to one of the, like a modified operation, then we are needing to add from, let's say from 5, if I look at 2013, what we would need to add is the difference between 560,000 and 1.274 million. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Roth? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you much, Mayor Given. Gary, as the multiplex is coming to opening, are the swimming lessons and that filled up at capacity right now?
Mr. Roth?
Your Worship, we are able to offer the same and actually more programming into the multiplex and still offer spontaneous use. Because the pool area is so large, if you factor the 54-meter pool plus the warm-up pool, the space is so large that we are able to offer more programming, plus allow the user groups the same types of opportunities that they had, plus still leave some time, all the time, for spontaneous use. So as an example, in the leisure center, we would have public swim times, we would have lane swim times. We're going to have continuous public swim times, for lack of a better term, and continuous lane swim times in different sections of the big pool at the multiplex. The only time that would be canceled is if there's a large swim meet or some kind of special event like that. We are certainly offering the same amount of programming, and with the programming, for example, like swimming lessons, the demand in the community sometimes dictates we can actually increase that if we need to.
Okay, I just got one more.
Sure.
Just one more question. I understand, or at least I heard, that the the smaller pool is under 4 feet of water. The larger one is over 6 feet of water. And there's more demand for the smaller pool than there is for the larger one. And the younger people cannot necessarily go into the deeper pool to take their lessons like they can in the leisure center.
Your Worship, that is an option, that is a consideration that our staff are taking into consideration. There is some options that they can do, even in the smaller pool, to make it work for smaller children. There are devices where they can increase the height. Basically, it's almost like a little platform that the kids can stand on in the pool that makes it safe for them to still have their lessons and safe for them to in that environment. And those are pieces of equipment that are currently part of our multiplex budget, part of our FF&E budget for that project, as well as the smaller pool does have a ramping type of a system. It was originally designed for disabled people to be able to access that pool, but staff have also looked at that and saying yes, they can use that, incorporate that into lessons as well as another option.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Gary.
Councillor Wong? Go ahead and turn on your microphone there, otherwise I'll turn on 3 people's at once.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Gary, for the modified operations, is the only difference between that and full operations the number of hours?
Mr. Roth?
That is correct.
So it is possible for modified operations to include public swimming?
Yeah, Your Worship, it would be possible. I guess it would come down to scheduling and the demands and how we can incorporate it, but certainly that would be an option.
Okay.
Councillor Crokin?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Gary, when we show the revenue in all 3 options, is that the same price that we're going to be charging for drop-in and et cetera as the multiplex, or are these just new rates for the Rexplex as we were shown at a committee meeting some time ago?
Mr. Roth?
Your Worship, there are different rates for the leisure center. That was something that was previously approved by council as part of the rate schedule.
Oh.
Do you have a sense of scale, maybe, I think?
It is a lower rate schedule for that because of the size of the facility. The customer is getting a lot less options when they come to the leisure center. For example, it would only be swimming in the 25-meter pool versus the multiplex where they would have access to the full facility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Gary, the operation, I understand you'd like to try to keep it open if it happens. It's not funded right now in the capital budget. And I believe we're looking at Operation C, which is funded. And there was stuff discussed in the capital budget about $2 million in 2013, $2 million in 2014, and we were a shortfall of $1.8 million. I just find sometimes if you leave it open instead of going at fixing it, there can be cost overruns while trying to keep it open and doing the job that are maybe not done up here. And if we're going to fix it, it's been pointed out there's stuff wrong structurally and it's not up to code. I don't know. It sounds like you keep it open, but you're going to fix it anyways. It's going to be cost overruns.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor Wong?
I'm going to throw this on the floor right now. I'd like to see a referral for modified operations starting in the latter half of 2013 and full operations in 2014.
Sorry, just to clarify, so modified operations in half of 2013 and then
Sorry.
full operations?
Sorry.
Are you talking A and B? Or
No, sorry, and the modified operational hours in 2014, but for the entire year at
Okay.
that point.
Okay.
Taking into account that there will be renos in 2014, but I would need numbers for that for tomorrow's discussion.
Okay, so we'll take that. We did have to eventually get to a point where we're referring something specific. We're not going to vote or debate at this point because council members we're just hearing information. We'll have the debate and discussion when we get to actually voting on these items. So we'll take that as in order to refer the item of 6 months of modified operations in 2013 and 12 months of modified operations in 2014. If I understand correctly, Councillor.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you much, Mayor Given. Gary, do you feel that there would be enough demand for swimming lessons to fill both the leisure center and the multiplex,
Mr. Roth?
the way the proposals was brought up?
Well, the way the proposal, if the leisure center were to stay operational, we would shift a big part of our programming and our rentals to the leisure center. We would actually operate less lessons, less rental opportunities at the multiplex, freeing it up for spontaneous use, unless council has other directions to staff. That's really what this proposal was based around.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Wong's referred that specific item to our flagged item discussion, and I think that gets something on the table that we can talk about actual costs at the appropriate time. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Gary, I just a question, and I think it was last week when we were doing the capital budget, I asked about renovations first and then go into the operations. Could you also look at that factor as well?
So I'll take that, Mr. Roth. At this point, council has voted on the capital portion.
Yes.
And so those numbers are in where they're in. And that was with money in 2013 and money in 2014. So that's already done.
I'm just wondering about if renovations are done before operation starts, if there's a cost savings of doing it that way.
Mr. Roth?
Starting, yeah.
Your Worship, we would look at the timing of the renovations and consideration with the options that council is considering. So, for example, I think the capital budget had $2 million in 2013, $2 million in 2014. Staff would look at what needs to the scope of work that needs to be done in 2013, and looking at the most efficient cost savings measures in terms of opening. Councillor Wong's indication was around opening in part of 2013. That could be factored together. It could work together with those renovations.
Kind of what I'm asking, I'll direct it is start funding operations in 2014.
Well,
So would I have to make a motion on that as well?
Well, what we've just referred
Do another one?
is, no, what we've just referred is something specific. When we get to the discussion and debate on this, council
Okay.
members, somebody's going to have to make a motion. I move that we fund this much in the budget for this period of time.
Okay.
And at that point, if council members have a difference of opinion on timing or on amounts, then that's where we'll have that debate. And we can make amendments to motions, we can vote against motions and propose other motions. But that's, so what we've done now is referred this item for, now that we've got additional information, we've referred something specific, and we'll have the discussion and debate at that point. Okay? So was there anything further on the leisure center then? We've got something referred to the flagged items, specific amounts, and we've got some information in front of us that we'll be able to make a decision on. Okay. Mr. Skavich, were you able to get additional information on transit? Okay. And so the discussion here was one of our flagged items from yesterday and this morning about the budget's alignment with fulfilling the goals outlined in the transit master plan. Mr. Skavich?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. This is flagged item number 3, and basically a 2009 to 13 transit master plan recommended implementation of a number of things. The ones that will not be included are scheduled enhancements. Let's pull up a slide on it. So basically, the TMP recommended that we go from the current hourly service to a 40-minute service and going from 30-minute to 20-minute cycles during peaks. The hours of service per capita will remain. Complete new routes will not be added, providing service to more of the existing and future subdivisions in all areas. Some service standards will still be deficient in some portions of the network. For example, the walking distance of 400 meters to a bus route for 90% of the low-density housing, and medium to high-density having 300 meter. Though improved, the schedule adherence will continue to be a challenge, and the smart cards would provide customer data and enhance transaction efficiencies. So those are the improvements that will not be met.
Okay, thanks very much, Frank. So, based on that, there's some additional information that I'd like to request, and would be the costs. If you could put the slide up again, the costs to meet the schedule enhancements, and the new routes as proposed in the transit master plan. So two specific things. Basically, what I'm wanting to know is what are the costs that would enable, how much money do we need to enable us to meet the goals that are laid out in the transit master plan? Okay. Sorry, those two specific goals laid out in the transit master plan. Okay. Is that something that administration will be able to get for us for tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's one that I'll refer to the flagged items. And I think that that's covered a number of our items where we could have some further discussion. I think at this point we'll adjourn and reconvene at 1 o'clock for community group presentations. We'll hear those community group presentations and flag items for discussion to Friday. At the outset of Friday, administration will give council a little bit of an update and a presentation on the range of options available to us should we choose to fund off any of this selection of items. And then we'll get into making the up-down votes on yes, we wish to fund this, or no, we're not going to fund that. Questions on the process or anything else? Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Last week, we referred from the capital budget some discussion about a timing clock from the multiplex. Is that coming up tomorrow then? Is that correct?
Mr. Roth, do you have any additional information? Maybe now would be an appropriate time if you had additional information on the background of that.
I would need a few minutes to be able to pull that up to be able to present it to you.
Okay, well, let's make sure that it does get on our list of flagged items for tomorrow then. Okay, and we can just have that information ready at hand.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, and actually maybe Mr. Roth, if it's something that you could circulate to council by email so that everybody has it, if it's in the right format for that. Okay. Okay, so then we'll adjourn for this morning. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock when we'll start with community group presentations. And thanks everybody. I think we've been more efficient than anybody expected, and that's a good thing. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you at 1.